The world of pharma marketing is quite
On
secretive.
what is AI, what is machine learning.
One of the first things you said was actually quite critical, I think.
And I was actually in a period of panic probably 20 to 30% of the time. I think that about 90% of individuals have no clue. I think the most important thing when you're starting out in your career, whether it's you're familiar with the industry and you're coming in to a different role, or whether you're straight out of uni starting your first job, is to build.
Welcome to the first official episode of Final Form. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Amish Patel, and let's get straight into it. So, one of the reasons I'm doing this is that I think it's a well known fact that I think the world of pharma marketing is quite secretive. It's really hard to find best practices or just learn from each other, whether that's within your own company or even like from company to company. When you search for best practices or anything like that, it's really hard to find something tangible and practical that you can take away. Often we see people talking on stage or talking online, and everything is quite theoretical, and you don't really know how to replicate it. So, what I wanted to do here, one of the things I wanted to do here is create a platform where I can really elevate some voices of people that are working within pharma, who are able to really share some of the real practical things that they're doing, which can help others who are going through maybe the similar challenges, or just help people develop in terms of marketing and their roles as well. So, what I wanted to do today is just share a conversation I had recently with a friend and former colleague. She's called Holly Cooper. She works in an above country marketing role at a large pharma company. And we kick off the conversation just really finding out a bit more about what her role is and one of the challenges she was facing at the time.
So my role, I'm a European marketing manager. That's my official title. But in reality, I'm accountable for the launch of new pipeline medicines in the European region, and specifically into a new kind of area for the company. So into a space on prevention where previously we've only been accountable for treatment. So a really interesting challenge we're having at the moment, because this is a new kind of disease area for us, because like I said, it's prevention rather than treatment, is how to quantify the size of our market. So we have not got much experience working in the prevention space. We do not really understand all that much about who are the prescribers of this medicine. And we only have one competitor that is generic. And that medicine is also used in the treatment space. And unfortunately, on scripts, they don't differentiate between the two. So you're getting a lot of usage in the treatment space, but also considerable usage in the prevention space. And actually, talking to different agencies about how to quantify this is quite hard, because we obviously want this data moving forward to track our launch uptake, to make sure our market share is really competitive, that we're hitting the targets and KPIs we're setting out for ourselves. But to get accurate data on that is not easy. We're working with a couple of agencies at the moment to try and explore that, but it looks like it's going to have to be some kind of market research done regularly, where we track behaviors in prescribing and then overlay that with usage of treatment and prevention for this medicine. And then we obviously add in our new medicine and get an estimate on the market share. But it's taken about 3 months already to get to this point to make this decision. So it's a slow process. And that in itself is quite frustrating, because we still can't quantify fully the size of the market opportunity for this medicine, let alone think about the KPIs and metrics for launching into this new market space.
So, how long will you keep going forwards with that essentially until you can realize whether it's worth moving forwards or not? Essentially, what do you need to see or what do you need to have to make that decision?
So we have enough already to make the decision, because we have market data that's done at a government level assessing the total number of people using the medicine. However, that's at a high level, and it doesn't necessarily give us centre by centre, region by region usage. And to be honest, the reporting on it from a government perspective is patchy across the whole of the region. So some are much better than others. Some of them really are saying they've got about 2,000 users when we know verbatim it's around 10,000. So there's big gaps in the data. So we feel confident that we can continue with the medicine launch. However, we do need to, by the time we're about 12 months, 10 months prior to launch, have a really good assessment, an accurate assessment of actually the current size of market, because it becomes an issue with supply. It becomes an issue with lots of our targeting, our P&L creation, if we cannot get more accurate data on exactly who is using this medicine, where they're using it, and how much they're using of it.
Hey, so present day me again. So I'd love to know if you have worked on a launch, and if so, have you faced a similar challenge? And if you have, did you do the same thing? Did you do something else? Feel free to message me. You've got my contact details in the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, just write directly in the comments. But for now, back to past me. So, looking generally, what excites you about the future of pharma and the potential impact it could have?
So, one of the hot topics at the moment that we're hearing a lot about, and I'm going to profess I'm not an expert in it, is the movement towards artificial intelligence and machine learning in the industry. So, there's seems to be a real hotspot of articles coming out, companies throwing this buzzword around without true understanding of what that could look like in the industry. We also don't seem to have very many good analogs of how this could really be incorporated into routine marketing. So, we have a few on the, I guess, extremities where we're seeing like this was a great trial. We had a go, we showed these results, but I'm not seeing how it's yet going to be fully incorporated into the journey for both patient, provider, and pharmaceuticals to really optimize care. I think there's massive potential because we get so much data as a pharmaceutical industry, as a healthcare provider, on our patients. We know a hell of a lot about individuals, but we don't actually run that through many systems to help target and simplify our processes and messaging. And I think in that space, I want to see movement. I don't know what that movement looks like because, like I said, I'm really not an expert on it. But as a basis, as an organization, it's something that we're going to be looking at a bit more. We're going to be running some baseline understanding in the next few months to really question people on what is AI, what is machine learning. So we've just, as an example, sent a questionnaire around the whole of Europe saying, what does this mean in preparation for next year? So people can at least get a benchmark. So we know that well, we don't know, but I think that about 90% of individuals have no clue, including myself. I wrote that in the questionnaire. I don't know. I need to spend time in this. But I think once we get a lot more people to a benchmark of understanding what it is, then we have the opportunity, with the power of having so many individuals in our organization, to explore opportunities for pharma, but ultimately patients.
Yeah, I might have to do this again in 12 months' time when you are an expert.
I don't think I'll be an expert in 12 months' time. I think it's much bigger than me, considering how long it's taken like us to get a chat GBT as an example. But I
Mm,
think that's the kind of thing that's prompting these
mm,
discussions. We're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing it outside of pharma, and pharma is always slow on the uptake because we're not quite sure what our opportunity is and how we can do it within the rules and regulations that we have, which is always, we're often conservative. We don't like to trial things, even if it's
mm.
low risk, even if it's medium risk, or even if there's a high return on investment, but it's high risk. We should be more comfortable in trying stuff that's in that section. High return
Yeah,
on investment, high risk. I would feel quite comfortable as someone looking at launches across the region to push the boundary a little bit more and say, okay, we know the risk is a fine, but if we don't try it, we will never know if that is really going to impact us or actually if we can truly innovate in this space. And for me, marketeers, I think, are more comfortable with risk. And it's sometimes our other counterparts who are less comfortable with risk, but it's our job to help them come along that journey to be more comfortable and be able to understand the pros and cons of not taking a risk. Actually, that's a bigger discussion that I want to be having.
yeah. Do you think, or do you use AI in your personal life?
I don't think so. But I could be
Mm.
having AI used on me without me knowing about it, to be
Oh,
honest.
100%. You
And
probably are, yeah.
I did a Google deep search. It was
Yeah,
really, really sad.
yeah.
I have to say, what they know about me is eerily accurate and equally depressing from my side.
Well, to be fair, even as simple as like this meeting software that we're using, and even Zoom now. I don't know if you've been on any Zoom meetings lately.
No, we
It
don't use Zoom.
spits out kind of a little email afterwards to the host, where it gives you kind of like almost a summary of the conversation that's been had, any actions that have been agreed or whatever,
Oh
and
my
stuff like that.
gosh.
I mean, the ones I've had so far have been very inaccurate, so it needs to develop a bit further. But it's listening.
Give it a year, and it will be in a completely different space. Let's be honest. You remember when Google Home and Alexa came out? They were
Mm,
before that they're pretty rubbish. Even Siri's pretty rubbish in retrospect.
yeah.
And now
Mm,
we've got ones that are pretty damn good. Not
yeah.
100%, but they're going in that direction.
All right. So, how do you stay up to date with latest trends or work on your personal development?
That's a good question. Probably not as much as I should. It's the first point that I think is really important. I don't think that I spend as much time investing dedicated time to my development outside of my role. If I'm also speaking quite plainly, my role is a stretch for me, so it's new. A lot of what I'm doing for the first time. So I'm often having to approach it with a learning mentality. My first place for development and learning is my colleagues. So talking to individuals, I prefer that personally to reading articles online. That would be my second place to go. But I always like to use my network, contact different people, especially in an organization as large as the one I work in. We have multiple different business units, loads of different medicines at different stages of their life cycle, which gives different marketing opportunities, as you know. So that would be my first place to go. Second, as I said, is articles, websites. So I'm subscribed to quite a few pharma marketing specific resources. So um, I really like reading especially the digital ones. I know we don't like that digital buzzword, but they still are called digital pharma, etc., etc. And I find them really interesting because I tend to find they often teach me things I didn't know. So it's stuff that's completely new to me. I find it a bit laborious when I go into other areas like launch excellence, where they're not teaching me stuff that's new to me. That's stuff that I already understand. So I do try and seek out stuff that's really outside of my area of expertise to continue to grow. I guess the final kind of learning space for me is attending courses. So most of the ones that I've been on in the last year have been as a part of my organization rather than external, which I recognize is probably a limitation because you do tend to get a little bit in the headspace of your company's way of doing things, especially because I've been with my company nearly 7 years. And I would like to do stuff that's outside of my company. But I have to say, for ease in a busy work environment, sometimes it's easier to spend time with courses that are already prearranged, that are already set up, where you can just sign up and attend.
I love that. And actually, one of the first things you said was actually quite critical, I think, because you said you don't have any dedicated time for learning. But actually, all the examples you gave actually just prove that you don't necessarily need to have dedicated time to learn, right? And work on yourself. It's actually all of these little things you're doing day to day, whether your role is a stretch and so you're learning on the job, right? Or whether then you're just reading an article or listening to something, whatever length of time that is, because dedicated formal time is a commitment, and you do need to be able to keep your day job going as well. So I think some really good examples there.
There's actually like we I'm quite interested in reading like different ways you should work. And there's like an idea that you should be about 10% of your time in a period of panic, the rest of your time in a period of stretch, and only about 30 to 40% in your period of comfort. We did it self-assessments like routinely throughout the last 2 years. And for me in this role, it was really interesting because I was looking at my team, and my team's about 16 other marketeers. So we're a big team of marketeers, right? And a lot of them were very routinely in their period of comfort. And I was actually in a period of panic probably 20 to 30% of time because truly the medicine I've been working on has been one of the most difficult things I've worked on in my career. And then the rest of my time I was in stretch. I didn't feel like I was in my period of comfort at all at some of these time points. And that for me just shows the learning trajectory that you're on. Because if you're in that, as long as you're not, when I say panic, not like fully panicking, wanting to give up on work, etc., etc., I actually quite revel in those moments when you get thrown a curveball and you just have to react and deal with it. And that's something that I think teaches you the most. Or when you do something wrong, you learn the most from how to correct it, or you won't probably make that mistake again. I hope you won't make that mistake again. But that I also think is a great opportunity, and there's no shame in that. Doing it wrong is actually something that I think people should be more proud of, rather than not feeling safe to talk about what they did wrong and what they learned from it.
Yeah, I love that. There's a cheesy line I'm thinking of there around that. What was it?
Throw a quote
It's
in here.
go on,
Go
I'll
on.
do it. It's what is it? Oh, I forgot what it is. Something about like you only no, what is it? Something about being defeated or not losing. Do you know it?
Nope.
Oh, it's gonna
You're gonna have
bug
to
me
put it
out.
up on the screen after.
Yeah,
Add it
yeah.
to
What was
your
it?
motivational wall behind you.
Okay, one final question. What one bit of advice would you give to a pharma marketer who's starting in role for the first time today?
I think the most important thing when you're starting out in your career, whether it's you're familiar with the industry and you're coming in to a different role, or whether you're straight out of uni starting your first job, is to build your network early. So you yourself will probably not have many of the answers at that point. You will need a support network to help you on your journey. You will need to observe how different people approach things. You will want to create that safe kind of relationship with different people, so also you can challenge them, because you may also think about stuff differently to them. But building up your network and relationships with them will mean that obviously you can do that in the right way, one on one, in group settings, however that looks. But I do think I wouldn't be where I am today, and I really do enjoy the role that I do now. I really enjoy the journey that I've come on. If I hadn't, in my first ever role in marketing, worked in a team of 8 extremely confident, competent, and welcoming marketeers who had regularly challenged me, regularly given me feedback, regularly, invited me to give them feedback, and had the relationship where we could be really transparent as a team. And that set the precedent for how I like to now approach my own roles, managing my own team, working with different leaders and senior individuals across the organization. Because if you build that network and that trust early on, it really establishes you for the rest of your career and helps with your learning trajectory. It moves it on I think, a much quicker tangent than perhaps where it would have been if I tried to do everything in isolation by myself, reading books. So yeah, bit of a long-winded answer, but for me, it's networking.
Yeah, nice. And then, so on that point, I'd say if if someone's like in a, let's say they're in a small team or they're just in a team of one or two or whatever, right? What what is the best way to go away and build a network outside of attending networking events?
I guess when I say network, it depends on what your role is at that time. So, as an example, I'm working on a pre-launch brand. The brand has been from T minus 24 all the way through now. We're about 12 months prior. And my network has changed as I've gone through that process. So my network has been significantly less commercial, more market access, more payer, health outcomes focused. And now my network is very much commercial medical, where we're really into that phase of the launch process. So I would think about, what do you need to be successful in your job? What is your objective? Build your network from there. Don't limit yourself just to the individuals in your team. Think more holistically. You can learn something from people outside of your specific job function as well. But then also, don't think just in terms of your disease area. So if you are in a space where you need marketing specific support, marketing is marketing, no matter whether you're in, I don't know, cardiovascular, diabetes, specialty disease. You're still trying to influence behavior change and encourage people to make the best choice for their patients. So you can get learnings from different people across an organization outside of your company and inside your company if you're lucky enough to work in a bigger company.
And there we are. That's episode one. Thank you so much to Holly for taking the leap and joining me in this conversation. And thank you for watching till the end. If you found this conversation useful or resonated with any of it, we'd love to hear from you. I've added a link to Holly's LinkedIn page in the episode description, as well as my own. Also, if you haven't already, please, please, please do me a favor and hit the follow button on Spotify or the subscribe button on YouTube. It would mean the world to me if you do this, because it will help me to keep making more episodes for you guys. So see you soon for another episode of Final Form with me, Amish Patel. So what do you see as your prime there? I've messed up already, see? I'm messing up. Yeah.
Editing, more editing, Hamish, making yourself
More
more
editing.
work.